What's happening, everyone? Nick Yorkers here, West Ham Fan TV. Back for a special video, really. Something I see yesterday, and something that's quite not disturbing, but it's got my back up a little bit. It's an article by a very well-respected sports journalist, Martin Samuel. He claims to be a West Ham fan. I'm pretty sure he is a West Ham fan, but some of the words he's written today and published by our own website, West Ham, whufc.com.co.uk, whatever it is, it's quite damning to fans. And after hearing David Sullivan, Karen Brady, David Gold saying that they want to do more to connect with fans, the reason why they've published this particular article on their official website is quite confusing. Now, the article's titled, "Upton Park was never the Bernabeu. Now the London Stadium is being used as an excuse for West Ham's failure." So let's read through a little bit. The bullet points here. Man City run out 5-0 winners over the West Ham at London Stadium. The reaction to the results as if big teams shivered at going to Upton Park. The locals' negativity towards West Ham's new home is contradictory. Now, let's get into it. Who remembers Fortress Upton Park? No, me neither. And yet another depressing capitulation, this time against Manchester City. The airwaves and message boards were full of disgruntled West Ham fans who could not recall their team rolling over like this at the old place. The performance I saw there on Saturday, I rarely saw at Upton Park, and I've seen that far too many times this season against far more average teams than Manchester City. Now, I'm not going to say it's all doom and gloom. I'm not an idiot. But, you know, we lost 4-1 to Swansea, the game before we beat Manchester United last season. But do you remember a time when we had so many consecutive losses as this? You know, a time, not a time when we had a bad squad. I mean, we've had bad squads and we've had bad teams and we've had bad results at Upton Park, yeah. But if you look at the quality of the teams back then and the times when we did have that many poor performances in a row, and the quality of this team, the team that more or less, the same team that more or less nearly got Champions League football last year, then something would suggest, Martin, that it is the stadium. Happily, there is record books for the times when memories fail, so we can see Manchester City lost once in 7 visits to Upton Park in a period from March the 1st, 2009, before we went down, under Avram Grant or Gianfranco Zola, when a squad was desperately poor, and Manchester City had just come into the riches that they are so used to spending now. There's no shame in that when you look at the squad back then. West Ham's home record against Arsenal was even worse, a single victory in 14 matches since October 3rd, 1999. Now, Arsenal were a very good team. Back in 1999, they were competing for the league title. They was one of the biggest teams in the country. They still are one of the biggest teams in the country. Not a lot of teams get much out of Arsenal over the years. We done it twice last year. Got points out of both games. And once again, talking about one of the biggest teams in the country. Manchester United, 2-0 winners in January 2nd. They also recorded 2 goal margins of victory in 2014, 2011 and 2009. Once again, 2009 we had a poor squad. 2011 we went down. 2014 we've been in the Premier League for 2 years and was building towards the squad we have now. There is no shame in losing by 2 goal margins to Manchester United. There was no shame in losing to a 2 goal margin to Manchester United last Monday. Even with 10 men, even if we had 11 men, if we lost 2-0 to Manchester United, you can't complain about them sort of thing. You're talking about the top teams here. You're not going to go and talking about... Why don't we talk about the Watford game? Why don't we talk about the Southampton game? Why don't we talk about the poor performances between Hull, Burnley, Bournemouth and Sunderland, the bottom 4 clubs in the league at the times? And twice in 2000, and Chelsea won by a margin of 3 goals or more at Upton Park, 2013, 2010, 2008, 2007, 2006. Once again, another top team once they'd come into money. So let's not pretend Upton Park had its moments, not least in its final year. but it was never mistaken by the Bernabeu for visitors. Now, we never claimed that we was the best team in this country. We've never claimed to be someone who's going to beat every team that comes to Upton Park. That's not what we're talking about here, Martin, and you know it. We are talking about teams not shivering coming to us, not, because it's just a reflection of the team that's on the pitch on the day. Yeah. Last season, do you think any top team, and let's go through the top teams, Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United, Manchester City, Arsenal, did they fear coming to us last year? You're damn right they feared coming to us last year, because we had the team to compete with them teams. And in fact, none of them teams that I'll mention now, let me think, Manchester City, Liverpool, Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal, none of them beat us. None of them beat us at Upton Park. We're pretty much more or less the same team that we have now. And, it was a big season last season at Upton Park. And that's what Upton Park could bring, the atmosphere. There are, on record, Martin, dozens and dozens and dozens of players. Yeah. And go back and check the records. You've got access to all the files. I haven't. But I remember them through memory, because I'm a West Ham fan and my memory serves me quite correctly when it comes to West Ham. Dozens and dozens and dozens of players that said they used to hate playing at Upton Park, because the crowd was so on top of them, because the crowd were, at times when the chips looked down, they were the 12th man. We didn't expect to beat the big teams every time they visited Upton Park, but we give them a damn good game if they did come away with any points. A damn good game, and it's very, very rare that we didn't give them a game at least. And that's the difference between then and now. We're not giving these teams a game. We've got the team to compete, as we showed last year, but we're not giving these teams a game. We're not competing with them on that level. Manchester City the other night didn't get out of third gear for the whole game. Now, a West Ham side at Upton Park wouldn't have capitulated like that in the first half. With 11 men on the pitch, pretty much our best team apart from Payet, they wouldn't have done that. They wouldn't have done that, and the crowd would have been more behind the team, especially when things like the miss by Faguli, would have got the crowd riled up in the past, and it didn't really do that at the London Stadium. The negativity felt by the locals towards West Ham New Stadium is a contradiction anyway. Right now, this is where it gets tasty. On one hand, fans are furious because the team keep losing. On the other, they say they did not want to move to the new stadium because West Ham was more about community, good football, and having a laugh with your mates. And it didn't matter that they would win the league. They wouldn't win the league. Well, we've never won the league. Never. In our history, our 125-year history, we've never, ever, ever won the league. Now, the reason, there's so much wrong with what you've said there, mate. The reason fans are furious is because, Martin, as a journalist, mate, and a journalist for a long time, a well-respected journalist as well, I've read your stuff, I quite enjoy some of it. Some of it dross, in my opinion, and this is certainly dross. The reason why people, and it's not just the football, but you wouldn't know that because you sit up, which I'm going to discuss now. It's not just the football and of the stadium that the people don't enjoy. It's the experience. People enjoyed the experience at Upton Park. People are not enjoying the experience at Stratford. So it's not all about results for West Ham fans. But as a sports journalist and someone who probably hasn't bought a ticket for years and years and years, I'd like you to tell me the last time when you did purchase a ticket with your own money. It doesn't affect you. You didn't have to buy a season ticket at West Ham. You didn't have to go there into the what was the place called now? The reservation centre, and listen to them sort of trying to buy us off with what has turned out to be not whole truths. You didn't have to sit there and watch a video narrated by Ray Winston telling us how great this stadium's going to be, telling us how much we're going to improve in this new stadium, and we all believed it because we was having the season of our lives last year. You didn't have to sit there and listen to Ray Winston narrate over it. Then you didn't have to listen to a man who was willing to get the money out of our pockets by saying anything, not to mention the whole process of selling the tickets was a fucked up process in the first place. All this +2 business where you've got people who are lifelong West Ham fans can't get a ticket. They will do next year because we've been shit this year. And a lot of people won't be renewing. And trust me on that, a lot of people will not be renewing. They'll get one next year. But they didn't want one next year. They wanted one this year because they support the football club. And for, reasons, sometimes it's their choice, sometimes it's not their choice. They couldn't get a ticket. So you've got lifelong West Ham fans who couldn't get a ticket for love nor money for this season. And you've got lifelong West Ham fans that are taking two mates who never supported West Ham in their life, never had a season ticket in their life, and they got to choose where they sit. And that's why there's so many problems here. That's why there's so many problems in this stadium, because people and the emphasis was given on the people that paid the most money. Band 1 got to choose first, so I was in Band 2 last year. Ryan was in Band 4. I opted to want to sit with Ryan because we wasn't allowed to downgrade the tickets, and I thought we was getting a much better price for the ticket, which is true. I'll give them that, for instance. But I wanted to sit with Ryan. He wasn't willing to come up to the Band 2. I wasn't willing to go down to the Band 4, so we met in the middle and went Band 3. But because I was Band 2, I wasn't allowed to take him to my meeting and downgrade to a Band 3. I had to take a Band 2 or above ticket. So whoever was paying the most money got to choose the first seats, which is fine. If that's the way they want to run that, that's the way they want to run that. Seems like a fair option. People got the most expensive seats, get the whole the choice where they're going. But they could take two friends with them. Two friends who maybe never support West Ham in their life. Two friends that may be business owners. Two friends that may not be West Ham fans. Two friends that may not necessarily like the football and just been to the Olympics there. So they got to choose their tickets before me. What I'm alluding to here, Martin, is the fact that the man sat into a room with me, looked me in the eye and said, we'll be able to compete. We'll be able to compete now for the money. We'll be able to compete for the best players. Now, I never wanted to leave Upton Park. I never wanted to leave it. We wasn't ready to leave Upton Park. It's quite obvious that we weren't ready to leave it. The stadium is not fit for football. We should have never left Upton Park for a stadium like that. If we were to leave Upton Park, we would have had to leave it for a purpose-built stadium that was similar to Upton Park, because that's how we survived as a football club. That's how we've become famous, so to speak. The fact that the crowd and the ground was an old-fashioned ground and the crowd were on top of you and it's a volatile area and the players, not the greatest players, but they're fighters. That's why we've been in the leagues and the big leagues for so long. We're not a massive club, but we're not a small club by any means. So taking us out of that environment and putting us into a bigger stadium where the fans are now not on top of the players, a stadium where players like Alexis Sanchez and Mesut Ozil are used to playing week in, week out in these international arenas, because that's what it is, it's an international arena. And you're telling me that makes no difference to the results on the pitch? You're talking nonsense. You're talking absolutely nonsense. But back to the reservation centre once again. We had to be looked in the eye and said, we'll have the money. We'll have the money to buy these players. We'll have the money to do this. We'll have the money to do that. And we all bought into it. Now, you wasn't told by them people that we'd be able to compete. You wasn't told that we'd get Champions League football in the first 5 years. You wasn't told that. We was told that. And what have we been served up? Freebies and loan deals. Freebies and loan deals. We save a lot of money by moving into the Olympic Stadium. It's a bigger arena. We've sold Upton Park. The debt that they said we was in is still there, even though they should have cleared it. They've just moved it onto another company. But you wasn't told them lies, because you get your sports passes provided to you by the Daily Mail. When you can just walk into a ground. The press boxes are not no different to the press boxes at Upton Park. I've been to press boxes, I've seen press boxes. You get a little desk, you get a little light, you go in at half time and have your cup of tea and dinner. We don't get that. We get the real experience of the ground. We get the real experience of the football fan. We can see what's going on You know, you can look up there from the press box. You can never gather. I've sat up there. I've sat near there. And you can't gather what's going on down there unless you're down there. And unless you've been down there, you can't tell us that we're wrong. You know, we know what we know. And we know what we see. And we know what we can... We've been watching West Ham a long time enough to think that this ground is affecting the players. It's affecting the fans. It's killing the atmosphere there. Even if we could generate an atmosphere... the only way we could have done that is to move fan by fan at Upton Park exactly to where they were before. So everyone that was in the Bobby Moore stand before, in the Bobby Moore lower, sat seat for seat. But we couldn't do that because every person had the opportunity to bring two people. So you may be sitting one person there with two sterile people next to you. Two people that don't want to sing, don't want to create an atmosphere, don't want to get behind a team. And that's why it's failing. That's why it's failing, because it's been diluted with non-fans, with people that, you know, not necessarily interested in West Ham. It's about community. Yeah, it is about community as well, Martin. But where is the community there now? They're chucking everyone and their mother away. They could have had a chance to bring the community with them by bringing a supporters club and all the community that surrounded the stalls, the badge stalls, the hot dog stalls. They could have brought all them with them, but they declined it. They declined it because they sold their soul to the devil, which is the LLDC, and they let them dictate now what goes on at that ground. Trust me. They didn't want to move to the new stadium because West Ham was more about community, good football, having a laugh with your mates. It is still about having a laugh with your mates. But how can you have a laugh with your mates when you're having banter and standing up and doing what football fans do, and as soon as you do that, 10 wannabe coppers come in and try and chuck you out, ban you, take you outside and smash your face on the floor and take your tickets, like I've heard by so many people. So which one is it? It cannot be outrageous that West Ham keep on losing, but equally outrageous that the club should have left Upton Park because success was never the aim. Does the results matter or not? Do the results matter or not? Now that's a big question. No, the results don't matter. The results never mattered at Upton Park. But when you sell your soul to the corporation, we never took that decision. That wasn't our decision to make. I don't know whoever the club spoke to before they moved to this stadium, but it certainly wouldn't have been my stadium. Now, I understand that if you want to get success, you have to move on. And they want success. And I can't, I could never contradict anyone that wants to make a success of our football club. We dream of FA Cup, not even Premier League titles. We don't even dream of that. Although Leicester give us all hope last year. We don't dream of Premier League titles. We dream of relative success, a cup final every now and then. I remember the last FA Cup final, it was street parties. Even though we lost, street parties, everyone was having a laugh, everyone was having a joke. Communities came together. So imagine that on a larger scale. Now, if you're going to sell our ground, you're going to sell our heritage, at least provide us with some decent football. At least provide us with, none of us wanted to go, let's be fair. At least provide us with a chance of getting the community back together again, the chance to, revel in the joys, It would dilute the pain. Not completely, never completely, but it would dilute the pain if we were to have some relative success. And the only way we're going to have relative success is to do what the board promised us to do by getting us there in the first place, to buy our season tickets. And that's to provide some decent transfer funds and not rely on European cast-offs and loan deals, to people that nobody wants, to provide us with success, because you're never going to get successful like that. We're not even as good this year as we was last year, strengths-wise, in squad. And we've added a lot of players to that squad, but the quality's nowhere near enough, the desire's nowhere near enough, and that's what we miss. The Upton Park roar, the community around that place. And if you're going to sell us down a river, at least sell us down a river for saying, well, it's like we've won the lottery, moved into a mansion, but told we still have to live like paupers. I don't know why we're doing it to ourselves. I don't know why we're embarrassing ourselves with paltry transfer bids for club's best players, people that we shouldn't be. Like, all due respect to people like Snodgrass, we should be aiming a little bit higher than him. He's a very good player in a very poor team. But should that be, as I said before, I've said it on Post-Match Pint so many times, we should be aiming to improve that if we want to move on. We would have been happy not to move on if we'd have stayed at our home ground. And that's the point. That's the point. That's where you're missing it, Martin, because you don't sit in the stands, because you don't listen to the fans, because you write papers and you want to suck up to the people that read the papers, and that's selling us down the river by, making us look like fools to the national press. That's how you sell your newspapers, and I get that. But I'm not trying to sell newspapers. I'm trying to provide answers and stick up for my fans, the people that support my football club. So whatever magic existed at Upton Park, it wasn't working. What does that say? Stay, and West Ham could only get smaller and smaller onwards to irrelevance as their London rivals expanded. Leave there was a hope of becoming more competitive if the club pulled together. It's true. It's true. We needed to move, but we didn't need to move there. We're the only ones that have taken the cheap way out. Tottenham, you look at the rivals over there, got a superb team. Like, it hurts to say it. Have invested hundreds of £1 million into the squad before they've left White Hart Lane. Have tied all of their players down to long-term deals just before they've commissioned a £400 million all-purpose fit-for-football stadium. Now they'll go back in there and they won't have these problems. Well, they might have problems. Everyone's going to have problems. And that's another reason why I have to dissect the reason why you're saying that these teams are not coming to the London Stadium enjoying it. Because these teams, it's a neutral ground for the first couple of years. Until we start getting used to it, it is a neutral ground. And at neutral grounds like Wembley and things like that, how many times, let's see the records across the whole of the football history, how many times you see the big teams come on top? They do, because they've got better players. That's why people call it a home advantage when you're playing at home. That's why you're not shocked when someone like West Ham does beat Manchester United or Arsenal or Chelsea every now and then, because it's a home advantage. We've lost that home advantage. It's a neutral ground for the first couple of years. Sadly, the stadium has now become an excuse for the failure. This has to change if West Ham are not to plunge headlong into catastrophe. Buying poorly in the summer has more to do with West Ham's poor form than this season than concrete. Now, that's the only bit he makes sense in. It is poor recruitment. But if you're going to move into a stadium like that, when you lose the home advantage, when you lose the atmosphere, you lose the intimidation of the crowd that are right on your necks as you're taking throw-ins, you have to invest in the squad. And that's what West Ham didn't do. They didn't invest in a squad. Now, what's more shocking to me is it's quite damning to West Ham fans. It's quite contradicting of West Ham fans. It seems a lot better in our minds because he's gone now than it actually was. It can't be everyone, Martin. Everyone can't be wrong. And everyone that's been to that stadium, everyone that's supported that football club for a long, long time, is saying the same thing. You've got people, lifelong hammers, that are vowing never to go again. Just because you say it from the comfort of the press box doesn't make it true. And you know what's more worrying than that man publishing that article in the Daily Mail, which is, pretty damning to most of his fellow West Ham fans. If he is a West Ham fan, he's been in sports journalism so long, he's probably got to be considered neutral now, is the fact that our own website published it. And our own website published it in a week where they're vowing to get on side of fans. They're vowing to get more fans listened to, more fans heard. they give with one hand and they take away. That's the problem. And there's got to be someone in that club that can see that this is not a good idea to publish articles like this. Publish an article from a national newspaper, because you're wrong and we're right. We've been lied to and you've been telling the lies. And all you're doing by publishing articles like that, imbeciles, on your website, which is quite damning to fans, it makes you look in a good light. All you're doing is digging your grave further. We're 6 months in now. We're half a season in, exactly, to a campaign that is not only disastrous in terms of what's going on the field. 3 wins, that 3 or 4 wins even at home that we shouldn't have had, and we would have been in real trouble. The last few weeks have really got us out of it. So it's been quite disastrous on the pitch. But as a PR stunt, as a migration from stadium to stadium, it's been a disaster. And all you're doing by publishing articles like this and, publishing these quite embarrassing stories about us fans to make yourself look in a better light because of personal issues you have with fans, because of personal issues you have with people calling you out and, calling your bluff, so to speak. And there's got to be someone in that club that is smarter than that. That should have looked at that article and said, you can't publish that. There's a divide between the board and the fans as it is. The people are calling for the board's head. People are calling for these people to walk out. People are calling for these people to get out of our football club. What do? Instead of trying to mend the relationship, they stick further divide between us by, condemning us. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that West Ham would publish this. It's a ridiculous piece. Unfortunately, he's national, and probably about 5,000 people watch this, and that's the problem. That's the problem with the national press. They write things that they really, really don't know what they're talking about. You can't grasp football as a fan when you're sitting up there in them lush desks typing things on your laptop, hardly ever looking up from your screen to watch a football game that's going on. That's not a football experience. Things like what I do when I sit amongst the crowd, buy my own tickets, travel to my own away games, unpaid for, unaided, do it myself off my own back to go and watch the football team. That's a real football experience. If they try to get some real football experience before they started talking nonsense, the world would be a better place. But, they're in the business of selling newspapers. I'm in the business of entertaining my own fans, and that's all I want to do. I've got no other ulterior motive, And if this platform can excel us so we can improve the experience for fans, so we can, talk to the board and take a lot of our followers' stuff on board, then that would be fantastic. And that's what I aim for. I'm not looking for a nickel and dime from anyone. I'm just looking to improve our experiences as fans and entertain you all on the way. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. This is a very long video. I'm going to edit this down quite a bit. Don't forget to go and check out Monday Musings. Let's be up this week on the social. Post-match pint, FIFA preview, match preview for the Crystal Palace game. And one thing left to say, fuck you, Martin Samuel. Come on, you Irons.